All right. Welcome, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're celebrating a pretty big milestone, 25 years of a game that's, well, let's face it, kind of about everyday life.
Right.
But somehow it's become this global phenomenon. 25 years of The Sims.
It's crazy to think about, isn't it?
I mean, I remember playing it when I was a kid,
Mm.
building those houses, making my Sims do ridiculous things.
Oh, absolutely. The memories.
But the thing is, this game, this cultural icon, almost didn't happen.
Oh, really?
Seriously. So we're going to dig into all that. The surprising twists and turns in the development of The Sims. From a risky idea to, well, one of the best-selling PC games of all time.
It's a great example of how something that seems simple on the surface can actually be incredibly complex and compelling.
Exactly. So to start, where did this whole Sims thing even come from?
It's actually rooted in a real-life tragedy.
Yeah.
The creator, Uillu Rайту, his home was destroyed by a fire tornado back in 1991.
I remember reading about that. That's intense.
It was a devastating experience, and during the process of rebuilding his home, he started thinking about ways to recreate that experience in a game.
Wow. Turning a tragedy into creative inspiration. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So initially, what did he have in mind?
His first concept was actually called Home Tactics.
Home tactics?
Yeah, the focus was really on the house building. You'd design and build your dream home, and, well, that was pretty much it.
I can see how that might not have grabbed everyone right away.
Yeah, a lot of people at Max's, his company at the time, weren't exactly convinced.
Sounds a little, well, maybe niche.
They thought it might be too mundane, not exciting enough to really capture a wide audience.
But then how did Home Tactics,
Yeah.
this house building simulator, become the Sims we know and love?
That's where EA comes in.
Oh, right, EA.
They bought Max's and I think saw the potential in Wright's idea.
They saw something there.
Oh, absolutely. They put together a team of about 50 developers to work on the game, and during that process, there was this kind of accidental discovery.
An accidental discovery.
While they were developing the AI for these non-player characters, the focus shifted. The houses themselves became less important than the characters living in them.
Interesting. So the game evolved organically during development.
Exactly. It became less about building and more about the characters, their relationships, their aspirations, the drama of their virtual lives.
And that's what really hooked people.
It tapped into something universal, this desire to play with life, to experiment with different scenarios and see what happens.
So was it always called The Sims?
Actually, no. The working title was Dollhouse.
Dollhouse. Now that really is niche.
You would think, right. And well, EA's marketing team wasn't thrilled when they heard it.
I can imagine.
They were worried it would alienate a huge chunk of their target audience, especially teenage boys who, were the big gamers back then.
Yeah, it's funny to think about now. This game that's become so celebrated for its inclusivity almost got pigeonholed because of a name.
Exactly. But they did some playtesting with school children, and the response was, overwhelmingly positive.
Kids loved it.
They loved it. And that really validated the concept. So they decided to rebrand it as The Sims.
To make it more appealing to a wider audience?
Yeah, they wanted a name that didn't immediately make people think it was just for girls or just for, playing house.
And that was a smart move. It obviously worked.
Oh, absolutely. But there's something else that made The Sims revolutionary, its approach to gender.
Right. It wasn't your typical video game.
Not at all. Uillu Rайту was very intentional about creating a game that would resonate with female players.
Which was pretty rare back then.
Yeah, it was. And to show you how committed he was, 40% of the development team were women.
That's amazing for the 90s, especially in the gaming industry.
It was practically unheard of. And the game itself was designed to break away from those traditional gender roles and stereotypes.
So you could create families with 2 dads or 2 moms.
Exactly. Or moms who were focused on their careers, not just staying home.
Years before, a lot of other games even considered that kind of representation.
The Sims was way ahead of its time in that regard. And it really resonated with players.
Yeah, it gave people this freedom to create characters and stories without those societal constraints, those
It
limitations.
was a virtual world where you could be whoever you wanted to be.
And did the developers realize at the time how groundbreaking that would be?
Honestly, I think even they underestimated the impact The Sims would have.
I mean, it's become this massive cultural phenomenon.
Their initial sales projections were something like 150,000 copies.
150,000, that's it.
That's what they were expecting. And then the first game alone sold over 40 million.
Wow. Talk about exceeding expectations.
The Sims tapped into something that no one, not even the developers, fully anticipated.
Right. And it's become so much more than just a game. It's a way for people to explore their creativity, to experiment with different aspects of life, relationships, careers, all in a safe virtual environment.
Yeah. I've heard stories about people using The Sims to, like, plan out their dream homes in real life.
I've even heard about people using it as a way to work through grief, like simulating the loss of a loved one to help process their emotions.
It's a way to explore difficult situations without the real-world consequences.
It's amazing how a game can provide that kind of emotional outlet.
It's powerful stuff. And in some places, like Russia, it's actually been used as a form of therapy.
Yeah, I read about that. It's fascinating how different cultures embrace The Sims in their own way.
In Russia, there's this whole thing about using The Sims to work through emotions, to cope with stress, to experiment with life choices.
Like a virtual sandbox for your feelings.
Exactly. One survey found that 45% of Russian players use it to cheer themselves up, to boost their mood, and then 54% use it to vent their frustrations.
Makes sense. It's like a safe space to act out all the things you can't or shouldn't do in real life.
And let's not forget about the infamous cheat codes.
The cheat codes. Gotta love those.
Especially the motherlode cheat.
Instant riches.
Ugh.
Everyone's favorite.
It's wildly popular in Russia, and I think it kind of speaks to this desire for wish fulfillment.
Especially in a place where, economic hardship is a reality for a lot of people.
And the motherlode cheat gives you this temporary escape from financial limitations. You can build your dream home, you can buy anything you want, you can live a life of luxury, even if it's just virtual.
It's a fantasy, but it's a powerful one.
It lets you experience a world where money is no object. And maybe, on some level, it helps people process those real-life anxieties about finances, about not having enough.
It's like a form of escapism, but it also makes you think about the role of money in our lives, how it shapes our choices, our opportunities.
The Sims, even with something as simple as a cheat code, gets you thinking about these bigger issues.
And that's the brilliance of it. It's a game that, on the surface, seems so simple, so everyday, but it has this incredible depth, this ability to reflect and comment on our lives in ways that we might not even realize.
From gender roles to economic anxieties to the very nature of happiness and fulfillment.
The Sims gives us this space to play with those ideas, to explore them in a safe and controlled environment. And that's pretty powerful.
It really is. Who would have thought that a game born out of tragedy, a game that almost got scrapped because it seemed too boring, would end up having such a profound impact on our culture?
It's a testament to the power of creativity, the power of taking risks, the power of seeing the potential in something that others might overlook.
And it leaves us with a question, something to ponder. Have you ever played The Sims and felt like you were working through something in your own life? Did you make choices for your Sims that reflected your own desires or maybe your fears?
Did those virtual experiences, those digital dramas, ever help you understand yourself or the real world a little better?
We'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories about how The Sims has touched your life. Because after 25 years, it's clear that this game is so much more than just a way to pass the time. It's a mirror reflecting our hopes, our anxieties, our very humanity.
And on that note, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. See you next time.
See you next time.